All right. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's event. My name is Mala Uneke. I'm a partner at the law firm of Bridgewater Attorneys. Thank you very much for joining us today, and thank you to our distinguished panelists for making our time out of your busy schedule to join us for today's event. As you all know, today is World IP Day. It's a day set aside to celebrate intellectual property, celebrate innovation, celebrate development. And so today, my firm, Bridgewater Attorneys, today is partnering with ASK, that's the delegation of German Industry and Commerce in Nigeria, to organize today's event, which has its theme as IP and youth innovation for better future. Ms. Katrina, who is the delegate of the German Industry and Commerce in Nigeria, will not be able to join us today because she is unavoidably absent. So I will be moderating today's event, and I will start with a brief introduction of who our speakers are, and then also do a brief introduction of what today's event is all about. Firstly, in no particular order, I will start with Yemi Kerry and just do a brief overview of her bio. So Yemi Kerry is the Chief Executive Officer of Hekabella Limited, a digital transformation company. She is Chair, Non-Executive Director, and Advisory Board Member of various organizations, and an award-winning commercially minded technologist with experience in the information technology and telecommunications industry, operating at CEO and C-suite level across the public and private sectors. She is at the forefront of digital transformation to tackle business and social problems, recognized as one of the foremost women in technology in Nigeria to carve out a niche in the technology space with over 2 decades of experience in both the public and private sectors. She is also a business development strategist skilled at creating innovative business solutions to address organizational challenges and leverages on the use of technology as a catalyst for strategic growth. As CEO of Hekabella Limited, the digital transformation company, and she's also a partner at Holman Consulting and information technology consulting firm. Ms. Gary, you're welcome to today's event. The next person is Dr. Yauri. I can see he has also joined us. Yolanda, perhaps if you can change his designation. I think he used Choma's link. The next person I will be introducing is Dr. Shefiu Adamu Yauri, MNI, who is the Registrar of Trademarks in Nigeria. Dr. Yauri holds an LLB from Usman Danfodio University, a master's degree in intellectual property law from University of Turin in Italy, and a PhD in intellectual property law from University of Jos. He is a member of the Intellectual Property First Group, that's the IP First Group. He's also the deputy chair of the MBA section on business law, IP committee. He's also a member of IPLAN, the International Bar Association, and the African group of the World Intellectual Property Organization, WIPO, in Geneva, Switzerland. As I noted, he's the current Registrar of Trademarks at the Trademarks Registry of the Federal Ministry of Industry, Trades and Investment, under which Dr. Yauri has not only revamped but successfully transformed the operations of the registry into a professional, efficient, and responsive organization. The third speaker, but definitely not the last, is Yinka Daramola, and Yinka Daramola is the CEO of Cocoon Limited. He acquired his multidisciplinary experience at Citibank in many geographies and ended his banking career at Ecobank as CIO, General Manager for Technology and Innovation. Yinka's professional qualifications are in accountancy, project management, compliance, and finance. Yinka has his education at Obafemi Awolowo University, University of London, and London Business School. Yinka is a techpreneur, as I mentioned, the founder and CEO of Cocoon, a fintech digital strategy and consulting firm helping businesses and creating diverse digital products. Thank you very much to our distinguished panelists for joining us today once again. Like I said, my name is Amala Omike. I'm a partner at the law firm of Bridgewater Attorneys. Bridgewater Attorneys is a full-service law firm with offices in Lagos, in Abuja, and in Enugu. We handle matters relating to banking and finance, to intellectual property, dispute resolution, and so on. I head the intellectual property and dispute resolution department of the firm. Without much ado, I would like to go to the next item, which would be for us to look at the theme of today's event, IP and youth innovation for a better future, and then look at conversations around that, given that it's an important topic. And that is essentially because IP has been seen to be the driver for innovation, and also the youth within the society have also been seen to be the catalyst for innovation and growth. And it's been seen that innovation is the key driver of developing a better future, not just in Nigeria, but for the world round. And to that, I would be throwing the first question, again, in no particular order, to Yinka Daramola to let us know what he thinks and probably share his experience on the importance of innovation in the growth and development of a nation. Yinka, thank you.
Yeah, sorry, Mr. Moderator, can I have the question again, sir? I think I was disconnected momentarily.
Please unmute your mic, Mr. Mala.
Sorry, if you can share your experience on the importance of innovation in the growth and development of a nation.
All right, so clearly, if we're to learn from the developed countries, which I believe we all agree unequivocally, innovation is central to growth. Innovation brings increase in productivity. When there's increase in productivity, there's economic growth. And when there's economic growth, there's increase in the wealth of every nation. So innovation sits at the center of such growth for any nation, and Nigeria can never be an exception to that. So what do we understand by innovation in the first place? We mean improvement in the ways of doing things. It may not necessarily be a change. It could be a very small marginal improvement in the way we do things. But what is important is that that improvement in the way we do things translates to productivity increase. When there's productivity increase, possibly same input, but giving higher productivity, higher output, and that is innovation. So when there's going to be development, there must be growth. For there to be growth, there must be increase in productivity, and for that increase in productivity, at the center of it, critical to that is innovation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Inga, for the contribution. I don't know whether Ms. Terry has any contribution to that.
Well, as Sidama has said, that he has put it simply enough. It is an essential part of an economic development of any nation, because what do we trade in? Basically, it's pretty much services and products, and it's these services and products that builds up to where you are able to measure even your GDP. And over the decades or the centuries, the evolution and generations, it has been innovative things that have been making us pretty much live better, whether innovation from horses to cars or the light bulbs, or even more recently, how one of our own innovative companies, Flutterwave, was able to provide a better way of providing a payment infrastructure for global merchants and payments and services. And so, it is all of those things that evolve and continue to build a nation.
All right, thank you very much for that. And maybe at the, going with that, if you could let us know from your own perspective, what do you think are the challenges that are hindering the development of youth-led innovation in Nigeria, from your experience working in your sector?
Well, from my experience in my sector is really now, so I'm in the technology space, and the sector is demographically more of youths, and youths, however it's defined, but there are so many of them trying to solve problems that economically, otherwise, maybe the governments or situations have, economic situations have put up as a challenge or a problem, and they're trying to solve them, and they all look for innovative ways to solve all of these problems. But in doing that, there has been a lot of challenges, one of which, maybe to all and sundry, would be funding. However, it is critical to understand that, funding in itself can be stifled by different other challenges, like one of which we are speaking of today, intellectual rights and intellectual property, poor technical manpower and the talents, inadequate infrastructure. We all have that. So if they are relying on the bandwidth or internet to develop their applications, then you probably sometimes find out that the cost and affordability of the infrastructure in itself as like a bandwidth it eats into their bottom line, and they are unable to afford as much data as they would have liked to have in terms of the time to develop their applications. So there is a lot, one of which first is the capital. Then, of course, there are things like infringement on their intellectual property. Sometimes I am also an investor, so I invest in startups, and you find out that sometimes they are hesitant to share their ideas with you because they believe sometimes that you as an investor have the financials, and that you can go in and take their ideas and replicate it, and that would leave them unable to attain whatever it is that they're doing. So, if there is always the awareness and the creation of awareness and their understanding that there are things, there's a protection or there will be an enforcement of intellectual property rights and all of those things, I think that will solve a lot of problems for the youths in their innovation strategy or in getting them to innovate any of their products and services.
Thank you very much for that. I think there will be a good opportunity to hear from Dr. Yauri as to what he thinks is the role that IP plays or can play in the quest for a better future and innovation. What do you think, Dr. Yauri, that what's the role that IP will play in engendering better future and engendering innovation, especially from the youth's perspective?
Thank you very much, Amala. I think the speakers have explained this in greater detail. What I will add is that we all know that innovation is the practical implementation of ideas, and it is innovation that drives creativity. And of course, you know, creativity comes with new products, new services, which in turn leads to products. And these products are what goes to the market, and from where government, of course, gets revenue and companies get profits. And this way, intellectual property is what protects that right over the innovations and the creative products and processes that comes about, meaning the ideas behind the property that we daily use. So as far as I'm concerned, intellectual property is important in this way by stimulating creativity. Innovation is the driver that gives you more and more competitive products that solves daily life, whether it is in the medical sector or in the food sector, agriculture, health, and whatever. And this is one of the central role of innovation in our society.
Thank you, Dr. Yauri, for that. Maybe since you are from, I would say, the government, as the head of the one of the foremost IP registries in Nigeria, that is the Trademarks Registry, I'll put you on the spot by asking, what are the efforts? Because we've all agreed that, you know, IP is needed to drive better innovation, to drive a youth-led innovation. But what are the efforts that the Nigerian government, the various IP registries, including the registry that you had, are making to support youth-led innovations in Nigeria?
But you know, and many practitioners in the country are aware that since 2018, when I came into office, we have set up a new vision for the Trademarks Registry in its role, not only as a registry for trademarks, but also as an important part of the intellectual property family. To this extent, we have put in a program called the PEER program. The PEER program is about making the registry professional, efficient, automated, and responsive. We believe that if we give our staff the requisite training, we also equip the registry in terms of digitalization and automation, and we also respond to applications and applicants' quest for quick service. We will be on top of our game. And we have been doing that in record numbers. And you will bear witness that not only have we rejigged the registration system, but we have improved significantly the administration of trademarks in Nigeria with the quick processing, examination, publication of journals, and disposal of opposition cases. Now, the most important and most viable program that we also created in the registry was our strategic direction as a registry. We came up with a three-pronged strategic direction. One, to strengthen our administrative and registration system, and this involves training and retraining, outreach programs, and we have been doing that with a lot of organizations, NACIMA, the Chambers of Industries, with other state ministries of commerce and industry, with some selected universities, and we continue to engage youth group and associations, particularly the IP ones amongst them, to create awareness on the important role and building respect and protection of trademarks in Nigeria. Secondly, we also have deepened collaboration with ministries, departments, and agencies that have role on the issue of protection of the trademarks. In this case, if you go to the National Agency for Food, Drug Administration, the NAFDAC, the first question they ask is, where is the evidence of trademark registration? This brought about quite a huge awareness in terms of registration and also the number of applicants coming to the registry. The Standard Organization of Nigeria, Small and Medium Scale Enterprises, and many other agencies of government also. And then on the third front is that we have improved and rejigged our opposition tribunal by setting up 5 opposition panels, which are daily churning out a lot of cases. So in totality, we have enhanced awareness and we have improved our registration system, thereby making trademarks more attractive to customers and our stakeholders, the youth. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Yauri, for that insightful presentation on that topic. I would direct this discourse to Yinka, and the issue is, okay, we've been able to look at the efforts that the Nigerian government is making. Dr. Yauri has spoken eloquently of that. We've been able to look at the fact that, IP is very important in driving youth-led innovation. We've also looked at the issue regarding challenges to the development of youth-led innovation, right? But what do you think, from a founder's perspective, that can be done to support, because most of the innovative ideas that the youth has, because of the fact that they don't have, would usually fall within the medium-sized enterprise, would be the support from your experience as a founder that would be given to youth in order to become financially capable to acquire IP rights? Because the acquisition of IP rights in Nigeria that would protect innovation, it's not as if it's very cheap, right? So I know we have Dr. Yauri here as the Registrar of Trademarks. So Yinka, as a founder, what would you think that you would recommend to the government in order to help the youths who are not financially capable or who may not also be aware, in order to assist them in acquiring IP right protections, which we've identified is important in driving growth and development?
All right, thank you, Mr. Moderator. First and foremost, I think we've spoken broadly around what the problems are, and indirectly we've also spoken about what the solutions are. Briefly, we've spoken about the need for governmental organizations and non-government organizations who need to provide help. But we can speak about this from now till tomorrow, but I would like to quickly speak about one or two things. First and foremost, the awareness. That awareness isn't really strong as a nation. It is not woven into our daily fabrics. A lot of people don't know what their IP rights are. They don't even know if they exist at all. So that level of awareness is important, first and foremost. The second important thing is to note that this is, doctor can bear me witness, this is not expensive. When we say they don't have enough money to pursue their IP right, I beg to disagree. Because if they know the right and they know the way to go about it, it is not expensive. And the only thing, though, is that, it's a government establishment, it's a government organization. It takes forever, okay? Maybe corruption along the line and so on and so forth. I may not be able to talk about that, but it's not so expensive. But what is central for me is how to help the youth to pursue innovation. starting with education. The school system isn't helping at all. Our tertiary institutions are not helping. So as a founder, in my own company, for example, we spend a lot of time and a lot of money educating the youths. We offer free internship, free apprenticeship, and free training. So this is one way I think the private sector can help the youths, okay, to grow their potentials to be innovative and to be creative. The second point I'd like to also point to is we need to talk about their mentality. Now, it's a Nigerian mentality that you start something today, you must produce money the next day. So they get fed up, they get tired of pushing. The moment they try their hands and it doesn't turn to money the next day, they are not interested in. It means it is not their thing. God is not in it, you know, if they have to look for something else, so they get discouraged about it. So to cut the whole story short, I would like to just let us drill down on those two factors. Education, let them get educated, let them get the right skills. And the second thing is mentality change, to know that out of every 100 innovation or innovative ideas, barely 2 or 3, even in developed countries, barely 2 or 3 out of 100 will make it to fruition, to commercial value. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Yinka. I don't know whether Mr. Kerry has an addition to that.
As I was listening to him, you know, they have it easier now because there's this new ecosystem that offers startups, you know, from angel investing to they raise the next fund, then they raise the next fund, and then they raise the, you know, and before it just used to be you grow your business organically. So as I was listening to Mr. Diamond, I was thinking, you know, it is important, even with that idea or the product or service, to understand that it cannot just turn to money. I mean, you have to labor on it. You have to know that you have to have a sustainable model. You have to know that you have to have patience in developing anything for it to be worthwhile and for it to be valuable. And you know, and so I just wanted to drum in that message. Nowadays it's better you go show your ideas to an angel or a VC, and then they give you money. Before, you had to really ensure that that product or that service would work and you will grow organically. So that point needs to be really, really emphasized. That's what I have to add to that.
Thank you very much. I think one of the takeaways or one of the points which Yinka and Ms. Kerry made is on the issue of education, right? That there has to be, it's not so much about the expenses of acquiring this intellectual property, but the fact that most of the youths who are, you know, driving this innovation do not actually have the proper awareness as to the fact that they actually have to protect their intellectual property rights, at least at the very beginning before they go into the market. I think that would then be a good point for Dr. Auri to come on and, you know, give us a brief overview, at least from the registry that he heads, which is, you know, again, one of the most important registries regarding innovation, whether even from a youth perspective or from a general perspective. So I think, Dr. Auri, if you could do us the honors of, you know, running us through what protection is offered generally by intellectual property, IP rights, and then particularly by trademarks. And, you know, a brief overview, I know it's a lot, but a brief overview of how one can acquire at least trademark rights within the Trademarks Registry of the Federal Ministry of Investment, Trades and Industry in Nigeria. Thank you.
Please, I didn't get that question clearly. Can you please?
No, I said, yes, if you could give us a rundown of the sort of protection that trademarks and other IP right gives, and then also a rundown of the procedure for acquiring such rights, at least when it comes to trademarks in Nigeria at the registry that you heard. This is important because we have, I believe, a number of youths who are here and who may not even understand what we are talking about. Yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you. First, let me comment on the issues that my colleagues, the speakers, have raised. I agree with the issue of education, the issue of funding, but most importantly, the issue of infrastructure should be added to it. And very, very importantly, a national policy and strategy on intellectual property. Because even if you have the right education, you have the right infrastructure, you have the funding, if you don't connect and interlink all this, and which only an efficient IP policy for a nation can provide, you are still not there. So I am still looking forward to when my government will provide a national IP policy for this country, which will make all the other sectors come together and work for the efficient and effective use and utilization of intellectual property in Nigeria. And coming back to your question, the most important rights that trademarks give is the exclusive right to use that name against any other person, meaning that no person can use your name, your brand, without your authority, without your permission. Unless if you license it, of course it can be for free, but mostly for a fee. And the procedures are simple. They are divided into 3 categories, and I will make it quickly. The first category is for search and examination of an application. The search for availability means that you create a name which you want to give your product or any creative work that you have. You give it a name and you conduct search at the Trademarks Registry. To conduct search, you need to visit the registry, and we have what is called the search section, which contains the data of all registered trademarks, including also applications that have been that have been received and are under process. And of course, you also know that in order to apply for a trademark, you need to know the class that you are trademark first, and they are class 1 to 34 for goods and class 35 to 44 for services. And once you identify the class, you conduct the availability search, and the search result comes out. The next is you file the application, and the application goes to examination. The examination is done also at the Trademarks Registry. The examiners are lawyers who look at the substance of your application, both formally and substantively. Formally in terms of your name, your address, your are you with me? Are you with me? Okay. And then the substantive is in terms of the provisions of the Trademarks Act, like Section 9 of the Trademarks Act provides for what can be registered. It must be distinctive, it must not be non-descriptive, it must not be ordinarily a geographical name, and so on. And once the mark is found to be suitable and in accordance with the law, the mark will be accepted. And if it is not, the mark will be refused, meaning that you have to go and look for another name and bring forth. And the next stage, after the first stage, which I said is search and examination, the second stage is publication and opposition. The publication, this means a process whereby all marks that are accepted by the registry, as provided by the Act in Section 19, will be published as accepted. And the purpose of the publication is, as also explained in Section 20, to give opportunity to any person to oppose the application if, for example, he has an interest to oppose the mark. For example, this mark you're applying for resembles my own, or is similar to my own, is actually my own. And then the process of opposition kickstarts. Then the last part is the registration by issuance of certificate and then renewal. You are issued with certificate, and the certificate lasts for the first period 7 years. Thereafter, each 14 years for the life of the trademark. And then, of course, renewals, and like I said, renewals is continuous after the first period, 14, 14, 14, 14. And as long as you continue to use and to renew, trademark is the only intellectual property that lasts forever. If you come to the Trademarks Registry, I will show you applications that precedes the amalgamation of northern and southern Nigeria, and they still exist and they are still existing. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that, Dr. Aru. That was a very insightful rundown of the procedure. I think one of the problems when it comes to innovation, right, especially from youth's perspective, is what one can term as piracy, right? I think it's, you know, infringements generally. Somebody brings up an idea, another person takes up that particular idea, right? And even when we talk about angel investors, VCs, right? You pitch these ideas to these VCs and these angel investors, and the next thing is somebody takes your idea and runs with it. And it has happened in various occasions. And that usually then scares a lot of persons, especially from the youth. They don't want to share these ideas with investors. They don't want to share these ideas with people who would be able to help them because they are afraid that somebody would run with their ideas and they don't have the fund. This person has the funds. So I would start with Ms. Kerry, especially from someone who is in the tech space, as someone who is also an investor. What advice would you have for the youth, especially who are doing these innovations, driving these innovations, as to how they would go about, you know, protecting, making sure, or walking that thin line of pitching these their ideas to these investors, and at the same time ensuring that somebody doesn't run with their ideas or whatever they have thought at that point?
We tend to get this all the time. You know, the shortest possible thing, the fastest possible thing is that some startups, some founders ask for an NDA, you know, before they can show their concepts or products to a prospective investor. Having signed that NDA doesn't mean that it's possible, because I can still get your idea and move on and get some other people to sort of implement it. The issue of trust is one that is paramount, and therefore it is always good that you go to investors that you probably know that have the integrity. Aside from that, it is critical that they go in and register their product, whether it's copyright, whether it's their trademark or trade secrets, whatever it is, they need to register that their intellectual property. The enforcement of this is another thing. The awareness that somebody else has stolen their product is another thing. But you know, the chances are that you would succeed in successfully suing. If you have registered, if I register something in 2020 and I see that I pitched to a particular investor, and that investor has sort of you know, replicated my idea and has not even registered it, I have the right to sue, you know, because I know that I have given. So it is important that you also try and register your trademarks or your copyrights or your trade secrets, whatever it is that is that intellectual property of yours. It is important that you know, very early in your journey, register it with the government.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that. Yinka, as a founder, right? What will you say about this? What's your experience? How were you, or how have you been able to navigate that space?
Okay, so something I will say from my experience is that one thing we've realized is that whatever you're thinking about building, trust me, like 100,000 other people are building it around the world. So I'll go with try as much as possible to make sure you register your trademark or your IP. But what I always advise people is that build fast, build really, really fast, because no sooner than you announce an idea, people jump on it and start building. So because like Doctor said earlier on, back in the days, it took months and years to have an idea and build an idea out. Nowadays, over a weekend, you can try your hands on several ideas. It costs you nothing. Back in the days, it cost a lot. So you have to really think about it. Even though, yeah, I have this idea, I heard about this idea, somebody mentioned it to me. You have to think twice because you might need some few thousands of dollars to even try it out. Nowadays, it costs you nothing to try any idea. In fact, you can wake on a Saturday morning and try about 10 ideas that same day. It costs you nothing. So I always advise that people build as fast as they can. Because even if you launch and your idea now gets known, it becomes public, in no time, people are going to replicate your idea in whatever small way. There's always a way around it to make it a bit different from your idea, such that your IP may not entirely protect you. Okay, so a big idea, a big advice. One, you register. Number two, build as fast as you can. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that. Right. I think, and when we look at the innovative space, especially driven by the youth, it's nowadays driven by technology, more or less, right? That's what is actually driving it. And I think I would direct this to Dr. Auri. What would be the protections available for somebody, the specific protection that a particular, because I know a lot of attendees here would be from the tech space. So for somebody who is within the tech space, right, what would be the protection that you should look out for at the beginning, that you should actually bear in mind, so that you don't run the risk of somebody taking your ideas to run by? Yes. Did you get my question, Dr. Auri?
No, I didn't. Sorry.
No, I said that I know a lot of our attendees here would be within the tech space, technology space, right? Because that is what is driving youth innovation currently, right? A lot of development, a lot of movement is going on within the tech space. So what would be the protection that somebody who is going into the tech space or who has a particular novel idea? I mean, I would agree with Yinka that what you think may be novel might not actually be novel, because there will be a lot of persons who are also thinking in that direction. So what are the specific things that somebody, youth or anybody going into the tech space, right, or playing within the tech space should bear in mind as he brings up a particular idea or a particular innovation?
Okay, thank you very much, moderator. You see, first we must understand that we are speaking to the Registrar of Trademarks, and therefore my answers will always be centered on trademarks. I keep repeating this: the most important intellectual property arm is the trademarks. So ensure that you have given whatever idea that you have a name and protect that name. But you know, technology being an idea is best protected by patent. Or if you have a design, a shape, a configuration of an article, it can be protected by industrial designs. So patent, if you do that, you can object matter of intellectual. Hello, are you hearing me?
Sorry, for a minute.
Hello? Yes. So all the subject matter of intellectual property can actually be used by an inventor, by a startup to ensure that the idea is adequately protected. Am I with you? So trademark is important because it protects the signs and symbol. Patent is equally very important. It protects the idea. It protects the idea. Industrial designs protect the shape and configuration, while copyright protects the literary and artistic works. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that. I know, Ms. Carey, you've been in the tech space for quite for quite some time, right? And I know you've seen things, So I don't know whether you can share with us any experience that you have, and maybe we can look at it regarding, intellectual property theft, right, within the tech space, and what, from a practical perspective, right, you or that person was able to do in order to protect or to remedy that situation?
Well, it would, off the cuff would be, it would be a situation where someone had developed an application. The application was in the healthcare sector, and had come to showcase it, and we're trying to sell it, to a client, and it was more like you had vendor selection for it, and then it was very similar to another vendor's application, which was more mature, and by the time we looked at the cost implication of the two, one was cheaper than the other. But what we did was for them to come and do a demo, and everybody was in the room, and it was pretty much obvious. But what in the end we had to do was to look at the languages that were used to develop the applications, in terms of how we wanted to select for the future. But it was pretty much left for them to go, and because actually none of them had registered. None of them had registered their intellectual property, but they had both developed. And it was a case of we used to work in the same place, and then I veered out, and so he stole my idea, and that kind of thing. But for us, when we wanted to select for our vendor, we were looking at the technology base for which it was developed because of the future, the evolution of that application. So, I don't know how they resolved it, because we ended up not taking any of them, but it was very obvious that none of them had registered. We don't know who stole what from whom. It was all hearsay. So I was in a position to resolve that issue.
All right, thank you very much for sharing that with us. Yinka, one of the things from a practitioner's perspective, one of the things you deal with, especially when it has to do with IP, I do a lot of IP litigations, right? And one of the things or disputes that you would see, especially from founders, is this. So you would have a company develop an idea, and then an employee, runs with that particular idea, and then goes ahead to start his own firm, right? Competing with your own company, right? And then if you flip it around, you would also see where an employee would say, oh, I was actually the one that developed this particular idea. I wasn't compensated adequately, I want to go ahead and start up my own, right? So that's especially within the tech space, nowadays we see that happen a lot. A lot of employees will go ahead and practically steal, I don't want to use the word steal because that's a very strong word, but hijack or take your idea and then become a competitor, right? I'm sure that as a founder, as a CEO, that's one of the most painful things that you go through. So I hope you haven't had that experience. If you had, can you share with us what that is? Even if you have not had that experience, what do you think? What would be the advice to the colleagues that are listening to us as to how to go around this? Because that's a big problem within the tech industry.
Yeah, it's so funny because, it did happen to me. It did happen in our company. So I've had it severally, but I never believed it was real until I experienced it first time. So the gentleman it was his responsibility. It was one of the developers. It was the backend developers for this project, and I would say 3 times it was up for eviction to be sent out of the company for poor performance, and I stood in each of those 3 times. That let's give him more time. Eventually, we threw a lot of weight around the project, and the project became almost, say, 80–90% completed. Then it came up, boss, I'm going back to school. You need to go back to school. Wonderful. And that he wanted to have a conversation with me. He said, let me hear, what's it about? Yeah, this project, when the company didn't believe in him, he completed it. And I know the company threw a lot of weight around, a lot of resources, but it's my idea, I'm going away with it. I was shocked to the bones. I couldn't believe it. I said, okay. I mean, it was funny. Okay, my CTO was sitting next to me and I was looking at him. And both of us were looking at each other. And I said, okay, continue. So he went on to implicate his own colleagues. He had drafted an MOU with his colleagues, a contract. They went as far as, like we all have said on this call, you register your trademark. We had registered the name of the product. I said, are you aware we've registered the name of this product? He said, yes, he's aware, but he's still going to use the name of the product for his products. So where do you start from? It's clear this guy didn't know what he was saying. Very, very clear. And I said to him that, rather than get angry, I can see you have probably baby milk flowing down your mouth. You don't know what you're saying. So rather than get angry, I just told him, okay, this name has been registered for us. You can't reuse it. Is that okay? He said, okay, you didn't know that. Okay, so now you know, okay? And the source code, you want to go with it? He said you wanted to go with it. It's okay, no problem, you can go with it. That's how I settled it. Go with it, because if I'm going to, that's the problem we have in the country. If we had gone ahead to do the right thing for this fellow, we're going to be on social media the next day. We're going to be the boss to be spoken about on Twitter the next day. And you know how Nigerians treat issues on social media. You're never given the opportunity to say your own side of the story. So I just told my CTO that, well, I educated a young man that, what you've done, you will end up in jail, okay, if I want to pursue what is right. But what is right for me is to educate you. Never, ever try it. The name cannot be used by you. We've registered it. And also, you've implicated your colleagues. You said you signed. He said he had papers where he had signed with his colleagues, people working in the same firm, that they were to be co-founders in the new company they're going to set up. So yeah, I've experienced it. And it's just like I mentioned earlier on, people don't know what right they have. Sometimes when they're infringing on people's right, they don't know. Okay, so this guy was a clear case of lack of knowledge, lack of awareness. So I told him what he was doing was completely wrong. I did mention to him 3 times you should have been fired because your performance is the poorest in the company. And we gave you the opportunity to do better, to pull your weight, and this is what you're paying us with. So yeah, so my advice basically goes both ways. to those working, you don't do that, okay? So it is not right. So what constitutes intellectual property can't be that product of an idea that emanated from a company you worked for. While you're working for that company, the company has spent a lot of time on resources, on R&D, on a lot of things to come up with that idea. You are just a component, a part of building the product, okay? So it is completely wrong. So there are legal appeal to this, and there are moral and emotional appeal to this as well. On the second hand, the company, just like we said earlier on, please always try to register your trademark. Register as much as possible to register your intellectual property. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. That was, I think it's now an almost everyday occurrence. And maybe from a practitioner's perspective, maybe if I can chip in a word by saying it's also important beyond also, of course, very important for you to protect your intellectual property by registering your trademark, by registering your patent, industrial design, you know. But it's also important for you to have documentation, especially when it comes to employees and employers, right? For you to have an agreement, right? An employment agreement, a contract. We see that a lot, especially with startups, you know, basically because there's no structure, right? You just come in, this is your friend, this is your quote unquote, your guru, and you know, you just was in, and there's no structure. There has to be employment agreement stipulating, of course, that any product or any services or any idea that you develop within, while you are within the employment of the company is belongs to your employer, of course. So I think one of the things that as founders, as owners of startups, should think about is ensuring that they have employment agreements with their staff. Under the new FCCPA, that is the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Act, there is an allowance for restraint of trade, such that you wouldn't allow somebody who has been in your employ developing a particular idea with the resources that is provided by the company to now, at the point when you've invested such resources on such a person, then go and automatically become your competitor. That's not right. The law doesn't think that it's right. At least legislation doesn't think that it's right. So there is that allowance for you to restrain within a particular time frame, 5 years, I think, the ability of that person to compete within that space in which you have empowered him or her to play in. So I think it's important that, very important, of course, that you register your trademarks, that you register your patents, that you register your industrial design, that you have NDAs infused in your employment agreements, that you have restraint of trade. It's also important that you educate your staff, just like Yinka has said, as to the need, because there are some persons who ideally do not even know that this thing I've signed, this employment agreement I've signed, this contract I've signed, actually restrains me from doing this thing which I'm about to do. So I think it's important that even at the beginning, when you are employing people as startups, that you have these agreements, that you have these contracts well stipulated out, so that people would not take advantage of your structure tomorrow. I don't know whether Ms. Kerry has anything to add to what Yinka has told us. Yeah.
No, it was very similar to what the experience I had. You know, I think they were working together somewhere, and both of them. It's very important to trademark, to register your intellectual property. It is very important, and people are beginning to see that in the tech space as well, because I mean, and then the issue of source code. The issue of source code is something also that you need to outrightly and explicitly have in your contracts now, particularly if you're outsourcing resources. A lot of companies now outsource resources from other companies, and they are privy to the source codes. So it is also important that you document the issue of source codes for those that develop in the industry.
Thank you very much. We have a few questions. Maybe we'll take them, and before we continue, most of the questions are directed to Dr. Yauri, obviously. So Dr. Yauri, if you can hear us, we have a few questions. Somebody has asked requirements for, filing a trademark for a company, the cost for the trademark, and can it be done without a third party? I guess, can a trademark be filed without going through a trademark agent? I guess that's what that's.
Well, for now, the answer is no. But I can assure you the Trademark Registry and the Ministry is working on the full digitization and automation of our operations. Hopefully, by the end of this year and beginning from next year, you can file application directly yourself under the ease of doing business concept of the federal government. And all is being done to ensure that that takes place, most probably by the first quarter of next year. Thank you.
Okay. Can you share, I'm not sure whether you have that offhand, in terms of cost. Is there like a ballpark figure, approximate cost? Because that's one of the questions.
If you're asking me about cost, I will tell you the trademarks practitioners don't consult the registrar in what they charge as their charges for filing and processing applications. But for the trademarks registry, our official charges are always known because we advertise them on our official website. So if you check www.cld.org, you will see the price chart there. We also publish them on our notice board. So anytime you pass through the registry, you can have a look at that. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Another question is, Dr. Sheffield, please can you confirm how often publications are made in a year? I'm currently undergoing a trademark application which has been on since last year, and the delay has been no new publication following.
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I said since coming into office in 2018, we have significantly improved the publication of trademarks journals. As you are aware, previously it takes between 3 to 5 years before we can publish one journal. But we have made serious case to the government, and we have now been given a threshold under the budget system. And by that, every quarter of the year, we publish at least one trademark journal, and it has been consistent. I believe that if the application is in order, it should be published in the journal this year. The first journal is coming out next week for this year. The delay was because of the issues with the government releases of the budget for last year, and we have gotten that approval now. So next week, the journal will be out. Perhaps the mark is talking about maybe in that journal. But assuming that it is not, please, can you ask him to contact me? Let us find out why it was not published in the first instance. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. I'm sure Lua, Kemi, Alfred have heard. Okay, this one is a general question. But again, maybe we'll just start with Dr. Yauri. Says it's obvious that the issue of piracy is killing the innovative spirit of Nigerian youth. Some individuals are benefiting at the expense of others. What is the aggressive move that the Trademarks Registry is doing to stop this?
Well, it's true. Piracy is a big issue along with counterfeiting out in the market. And this is because people will always want to go for easy ride. But like I told you, part of the three strategic of the Trademarks Registry is deepening collaboration with ministries, departments, and agencies of government on enforcement. We have very strong relationship with NAFDAC. We have very strong relationship with the Standard Organization of Nigeria. We have very strong relationship with customs. So if you talk about NAFDAC certification, NAFDAC will never issue any certification for food, drug, or cosmetics without evidence of trademarks registration. And the same thing with Standard Organization of Nigeria. You cannot get a sun cap without evidence of trademark registration. Now we have entered a new relationship with customs and the police, and we are moving more and more into closer collaboration with agencies of government dealing with trademark matters. Now again, internally, we have rejigged our opposition and appeals section. We will get now quick disposal of opposition cases while we respond to queries, replies to issues raised in terms of registration. In all these ways, we are in a kind of administrative way supporting what we are doing on the enforcement angle. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gowrie, for that. Maybe Yinka, if you, I mean, it's a general problem in terms of piracy, right? Even when it comes to digital piracy. So what do you think that the government can do in order to assist, in curbing that?
Yeah, as a country, we need to have a national agenda. So, and we need to be really serious about it. We need to mean business. So we have enough laws, where we can say the laws are somewhat very old, 1967, 1971, when I was checking, somewhat old, but we have the laws. So we should have the question of enforcement. Okay, hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, good. So we need to move to what we call the modern laws to that incorporate the latest and recent developments in intellectual property, in tech, in entertainment. And we're talking about metaverse. We're talking about quite a lot of sophisticated stuff that we need to revise. We need to revise our laws. That's one. When we need to talk about enforcement. How do we enforce those laws? How do we make sure you face the penalty if you infringe on somebody else's intellectual property rights? So we need to, you can imagine in 2013, what China did. They made a pronouncement. They wanted IP to be a part of their daily lives. So that's the step we need to make, we need to take as a country. We need to move into enforcement. It's always very difficult, it's expensive, but the gains downstream is huge. So that would be my advice as a country. Let's have a national agenda. Let's enforce those laws. Let's encourage people who have ideas, who have moved their ideas into fruition, and let them have a commercial value coming out of it. And let those who infringe on other people's property to get penalized for it. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that. Ms. Carey, do you have a word to add to that? Yeah.
Well, I know that the IP policy, the Nigerian Economic Summit Group is helping in the drafting of the IP policy. I don't know where it is now, whether it has a sponsor or if it's still the first reading, but the policy has been, they've been developing it now. It's almost the lawmakers turning into an act or a bill or a law, that's maybe at 2 to 3 years. So the bureaucracy in getting a policy, it's slow. And by the time that policy comes out, I mean, Doctor talked about metaverse now. There are new evolutions or in technology or in other industries that are coming up that needs to be added or amended, you know, in our policy. We need to do things very aptly and prioritize certain things. And I think the IP policy is one of them. It needs to be improved.
Thank you very much. We have a question, and I think that's for Dr. Yaori. It says, when one makes an application for the registration of a trademark and it's approved, is the Trademarks Journal the only means available for the applicant to know whether or not his application found merit? Dr. Yaori, did you hear us?
The last part, whether or not, what?
Whether or not his application found merit. It says when one makes application for the registration of a trademark and it's approved, is the Trademarks Journal the only means available for the applicant to know whether or not his application found merit?
Well, not actually, because finding merit means it has been accepted. Once it is accepted, it means that it is on notice that it is going to be published as provided by the Act. But the question is there any other means that you can publish a mark other than the journal? The answer is no. It is only through the Trademarks Journal that you can advertise, publish a trademark as provided by the Act. For now, maybe in the near future, like I said, when we are fully digitized and automated, you may have the chance of having an e-portal where such marks can be published. Are you with me?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
All right,
Okay.
thank you very much. Yes. Somebody is asking a question and it's directed to Yinka. Says, how well in terms of percentages is intellectual property worth in Nigeria? Are we able to quantify the worth of IP in Nigeria? How much worth does the Nigerian society place on IP, and how can we ensure it increases? Because I believe worth placed on IP will determine how people respect other people's IP rights.
Yeah, that's a very good question. Yes, we don't wake up every day and remember IP the same way you wake up every day and you remember breakfast. So let's flip it around. In the Western world, in the Western countries, the way you think about food, the way you think about next time to sleep and wake up, the way you think about it's church time is the same way they think about IP. So as a people, as a society, as a country, is that how we see IP? The answer is no. So that's why a lot of us don't even know what an IP rights are. A lot of us don't even know when we're infringing on other people's IP rights. So that's where awareness needs to come into play. Government has a lot of work to do. People need to be aware of what IP is in the first place. What right have you got in the second place? And when is it that you're infringing on somebody else's right? And what are the implications? So yeah, what is the worth? It's, I must say as a society, it's almost worthless. Okay, because we don't place any serious value on it. So, and that's why I consider that a very, very good question. So it is not in our value system at all. And what we need to understand at this point is, there is no how we will grow as a country. There is no how we will advance with innovation as a country if we don't take it seriously. So awareness is important. In fact, so I would almost suggest that we make it a high school course, a high school subject, a GC or O-level subject to be taught the same way we teach government, the same way we teach economics, the same way we teach mathematics. We need to start from there. People need to wake up from the beginning of life to understand the importance of IP, okay? And to see how it is completely central to how and the only way we can grow as a country, the only way we can advance as a country, the only way to wake up one day and have an idea, turn it produce a practical application of an idea, and you are in serious money. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that. Another question is, in the tech space and with ideas, especially working with developers and the source code you mentioned, is there an IP around it? I think that's for the person directed it for Yinka. However, I'm not sure whether Inga, do you want to go? You want to?
Okay, yes, there's IP around the source code. It's a property of yours, the same way your books, your cars, your houses are your properties. Your source codes remain your property. Okay, so is there an IP around your source code? Maybe I'm not able to answer that, to be honest. Okay, I know there's an IP around your ideas, the advancements in an application of knowledge and brain, and there's an IP around that. All I can say is maybe literally your source codes are your property, but maybe a doctor will be able to explain that. What kind of IP protection do you have around your source code?
Yes, you're quite right. It's protected by IPs under copyright, even under patents, right? And the point about copyright, the beautiful thing about it is that you don't need to register your copyrights, right? Once that idea has been expressed in a form, right, it's already protected under copyright, right?
The only problem is that in Nigeria, sorry, moderator, to cut in.
Yeah.
In Nigeria, you cannot protect computer software as it is for patents. The patent law does not provide for protection of computer softwares. For now, I believe this will be part of the issues we are canvassing for the review of the patent law, and by the time that is done, I'm sure it will provide for computer software. So the best option for now is copyright, and that is the best protection that you may have. Now that, hello?
You're quite right. So
yes, I think for now that is the way to go. I also want to apologize because I have to rush into a meeting with the minister. I've just been informed that the minister is looking for me. If there's any question directed at me, I can answer that before I rush. Otherwise, I will join you as soon as I'm done with the minister. Sorry.
No,
I apologize.
Thank you very much. I know today you are anchoring an event, So, but just the last question somebody asked you would be: are service marks registrable in Nigeria?
Yes, they are, and we have been registering it for many years now. Of course, if you have any service mark, you can approach the registry for registration.
Yes. So thank you very much, Dr. Yauri. I mean, your presence is, and we're almost closing. The point I was just making is that, of course, source code is protected under our copyright laws. And the beautiful thing about our copyright laws, it's general, is that unlike trademarks that you have to do a registration, the law, the protection is almost automatic, right? Once that idea has been expressed. However, it will be optimal for you to notify the Copyright Commission, right? But once you are able to show evidence that you've actually developed that particular source code and it's verifiable, of course, you are already protected under copyright. So yes, so to the answer to the question is yes, there's an IP around source code, and that has to do with patents. In other jurisdictions, they've already recognized patents, right, as a form of, as a means for protecting source code or computer softwares. But currently, our law is has not been developed up to that extent. However, I'm in a committee along with Dr. Yauri, working with the National Assembly, that's NASBA, to try and revamp the current patent law that we have in place. And that is one of the recommendations which we've made to the National Assembly under the aegis of NASBA. There's a question, and that is, can a business without logo name be a trademark? Dr. Auri is no longer here, but I can answer that. However, the question is not very clear. If you are asking whether a trademark can be registered as just a word without a logo, the answer is yes. You don't need a logo to register a trademark. I mean, I can register, for instance, the name of my firm is Bridgewater Attorneys, and you can register Bridgewater Attorneys as a trademark without the logo. You can register Cocoon, for instance, without the logo. You can register Hecabella without the logo, right? So word marks are registrable. Logos, or what we call devices, are also registrable. I know the time is fast spent, and I know Yolanda has one or two things to say to us because we have to have a hard stop by 12:30. It's been an interesting conversation around the protection of IP, or the protection that IP offers, and then its role in driving youth-led development. I don't know whether Yolanda is still with us.
Yes, I am.
Yes. So.
No, I think that the session went really well. I initially wanted to play a video from the delegate of German Industry and Commerce at the beginning, just to tell us that she's not here, unfortunately, because she's traveling, but giving us all our best regards. Maybe a little late, but I'll still play it just for the sake of doing it. So yes, there's a warm welcome remark from Kat, who is delegate of German Industry and Commerce.
Good morning. My name is Katharina Felgenhauer, and I am the delegate of German Industry and Commerce in Nigeria. I was supposed to be with you this morning live, but unfortunately, last-minute travel changes got in the way. I say unfortunately because I would have loved to be in this session. Today is World Intellectual Property Day. This year, World Intellectual Property Day focuses on young people, because young people around the world, and especially in Nigeria, innovate, drive change, and need to think about intellectual property rights. That is why today's session looks at some background on intellectual property rights, why it is so important to protect those rights, how we can make sure we don't infringe on other people's intellectual property rights, and what we can do to make business out of intellectual property. Today's session is organized by the Delegation of German Industry and Commerce in Nigeria and would not be possible without the generous support by Bridgeford Attorneys. We're very happy to have Bridgeford Attorneys with us. Amala Omeke is also one of our experts speaking today. Thank you very much. I also want to thank the other speakers, but I trust you will get to meet them during this session. Again, I wish you a great session. I hope that I get a lot of feedback after this session, a lot of discussions maybe, and I hope that we can support some of you in your way driving business here in Nigeria while protecting your IP, while making business out of IP, and while staying out of IP trouble. Enjoy your session and all the best.
Yes, thank you very much. Please, Mr. Wala, you can carry on. I know we're about to end, and everyone already gave say their last final comments, but if there are any more final comments, we can take that now before we put the hard stop to the session.
Thank you very much. Ms. Kare, if we could have a final word from you on the conversation that we've had today.
Well, we've discussed extensively today, and the critical point to know is that your registration of your ideas or your products, your trade secrets, your copyrights, your trademarks are very important because they identify the value that you're bringing in actually developing the economy and making Nigeria improving Nigeria's GDP. We have also discussed and emphasized the point that it is important to create awareness about the intellectual property, and then that there are regulations and policies that will support you in enforcing. From a technology standpoint, it is very critical that your source codes are registered. It is very critical that the IP of your products or service that you're providing are registered, and that you ensure that you sign off your NDA or have a memorandum of understanding with any of the developers or outsourcing companies that you are having businesses with. With that, I would just like to say it was good to have the Director of Trademarks here for the enlightenment for even those of us that are on this panel, and was wonderful sharing a panel with Yinka Daramala and Dr. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So Yinka, if we could have your last words.
Hey, thanks a lot. It's been a very great session. I think my last words would go to us as a country. Obviously, Nigeria needs to develop a national policy on IP as a matter of urgency. From the experiences of China, India, and the advanced countries of the world, such as the US, no nation can consciously and seamlessly develop its IP without first setting up and vigorously propagating a national policy framework that will spell out in clear terms the overall IP goal of a country, of the nation. And also I want to salute I didn't know that was happening. I want to salute the authority on the automation journey, the automation of the systems in all IP registration offices and their harmonization with the platforms of all regulatory bodies of trade, of business, and investment in Nigeria, including but not limited to the CAC, the Copyright Commission, the Patent and Design Registry, the Trademark Registry, the Standard Organization of Nigeria, and the rest of that. It's really, really important to make it very seamless and easy for people to register, because most of the time, when you even make an attempt to do the right thing in Nigeria, the difficulty in doing it discourages people from going and forging ahead. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I know Dr. Auri is no longer with us because I know he, as you know, today is the World IP Day, so he has a meeting. My firm is also involved in that. But I want to say a big thank you, first of all, to our panelists. It's been wonderful having you on board. Such an interesting conversation that has gone on for the past 1.5 hours, sharing your thoughts on this particular topic. We also want to say a big thank you to AHK, Yolanda and Katrina for the very good job and for hosting us. And of course, to my colleague Choma, who has been the firm's backbone in trying to put this together. Thank you very much to our participants and attendees who have been with us for the past 1.5 hours, asking questions. I do hope that you've been able to take away the fact that it's really important for you as a business, for you as an individual that is trying to bring up a particular idea, to protect your IP rights, first of all, before you do any other thing, so that you then have a seamless business. It's been wonderful having this event, and we wish you all the best as you go about your respective businesses today. Yolanda, do you have any final words for us?
Yes, just a final comment. As you can see, we are recording this session, so we'll also make it available publicly on our YouTube channel, and the link will be shared to everybody who was in attendance today. So please take some time to also go back if you missed out on anything, and if you want to reach out to any of the speakers here, please let me know. I'll be happy to put you in contact with them, share their email addresses, and even maybe their phone numbers. Just let me know, and I'll be happy to do so. So once again, thank you so much from us, the Delegation of German Industry and Commerce in Nigeria. And thank you a lot also to Bridgeport Attorneys for the support to put this together. It's been really interesting, very wonderful session. Hopefully we can do this again next year or sometime even soon in the future. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, and have a great day, everybody.